In the cold, razor-thin silence of the Virely cluster, where stars burned blue with rage and time itself seemed reluctant to pass, an imperial vessel the size of a small moon drifted like an obsidian phantom. It was not built for grace. It was built to be seen asterisk. Long black spires jutted from its frame like thorns. The hull shimmered faintly with void light, and its engines pulsed with a soundless rhythm that made lesser ships stutter with awe. The dreadnought asterisk Zyrha was not merely a ship. It was a declaration of dominance. And at its core, in a chamber carved from translucent crystal and threaded with veins of pulsing violet energy, sat the galaxy's most feared monarch, Queen Thelari of the Ilaran sovereignty. She did not sit on a throne, precisely. Thrones were for monarchs who required height to feel power. Her seat was grown from living mineral, contoured to her body, humming faintly to her pulse. Her posture was languid, yet somehow oppressive. Every movement she made seemed orchestrated for silent judgment. Her skin, a pale shade of dusk metal, shimmered when she breathed. Her ears, long, elegantly pointed, arching slightly backward, were adorned with thin silver bands that displayed shifting glyphs of command. Her eyes, pupil-less and faintly opalescent, regarded the trembling beings before her with the detached interest of a biologist observing fungi. The prisoners knelt, all but one. "Would it be weird if I asked for a bathroom break now?" said the human, gasps, glares. A Nuvan cleric to his left fainted. The Ilaran guard stiffened. One actually dropped his plasma halberd. Jace Talbot, freelance pilot, former asteroid barista, and currently incarcerated guest of Her Galactic Majesty, blinked slowly. "What? It's been 7 hours, I've counted. My kidneys are unionized." Silence followed, as if the entire dreadnought had suddenly gone into listen mode. Thelari tilted her head a fraction. That alone made her attendants shift nervously. One of them, a frail-seeming creature with translucent scales and no visible mouth, buzzed a question in ultrasonic. "Shall we vaporize him now, your radiance, or let the plasma worms soften him first?" She raised one elegant hand. "Wait." Even the translation drones paused mid-cycle. She descended the dais slowly, her long, dark cloak whispering across the crystal floor. Her steps echoed unnaturally, reverberating as if the ship itself anticipated her mood. Jace glanced around, calculating the probability of survival in case he tried to run. It was low. Like lick an open reactor low, Thelari stopped before him. Up close, she radiated a gravity that had nothing to do with mass and everything to do with sheer imperial command. She was taller than he expected, almost his height, and that was with no shoes. Her gaze locked on his face, unreadable. "You are human," she said in a voice that sounded like dark wind through chimes. Smooth, yes, but also with the suggestion that the wind might eat your memories. Jace tried not to flinch. "Last time I checked." 2 arms, 1 sarcasm gland, and a complete set of bad decisions. A sound emerged from her throat, not quite a laugh, not quite a scoff, something in between. "And your name?" "Jace Talbot. Smuggler, pilot, amateur, poet, accidental rebel." He gave a short bow. "At your service, your shiny-eared magnificence." Another silence. One of the guards actually pressed a panic button, her brow lifted just slightly. "Do you speak to all monarchs this way, or only the ones who could crush your skull with a thought?" Jace grinned. "I like to think it's a universal diplomatic strategy. If you laugh, I live. If you don't, well, I probably still live, but with fewer bones." Thelari circled him once slowly. "You fear nothing." "Oh no, I'm terrified. But I'm also tired, underfed, and still a little space-drunk from whatever teleportation slingshot your goons used. My dignity left 2 galaxies ago." She stopped before him again. "You are not like the others." "That," Jace said with a shrug, "is the nicest thing anyone said to me today. Right after you're too insignificant to interrogate," which I took as a compliment. One of her attendants, a creature with 4 eyes and no patience, leaned in. "Queen Thelari, this behavior violates Protocol 11 of prisoner evaluation. May I recommend immediate?" She waved the creature silent. "Jace Talbot," she said, her voice now lower, considering. "You will remain aboard Asterisk Zyrha. You are not to be executed, yet." Jace looked surprised. "I'm not. You intrigue me. That is usually followed by put him in a cage and poke him with lasers." "Correct. Okay then, I'll just—" He raised his wrists helpfully. "Do you provide shackles, or should I improvise?" She turned away, the faintest smile on her lips. "Escort him to Chamber 9. Do not sedate. I want to see what he does." Jace opened his mouth to ask what exactly Chamber 9 was. but the guards were already dragging him away with unexpected gentleness. As the doors closed behind him, one of the surviving prisoners whispered, "He's dead. He's so dead." StoRy sat once more, but something in her gaze had shifted. Her mind, trained over decades to see only strategy, only power, now held a fragment of something unfamiliar. Not fear, not control, something else. Elsewhere, in a gleaming corridor of endless curves and whispering conduits, Jace was making friends with a cleaning drone. "So if I reprogram you to do pirouettes instead of sweeping, is that sabotage or art?" The drone chirped confusedly. Jace patted it. "We'll figure it out together, buddy." And somewhere far above, in her chambers pulsing with starfear, Queen StoRy watched the feed, her lips twitching again in that nearly laugh. For the first time in decades, the Queen of 1,000 Conquests felt a strange sensation trickling through her ancient veins. Not dread, not curiosity, amusement, and that was dangerous. Chamber 9 was, to Jace's immense disappointment, not a cell full of 9 luxury beds and optional aromatherapy. It was a transparent cube suspended in the middle of a vast, vertical shaft filled with floating metal spheres, pulsing cables, and the occasional arc of silent blue lightning. If a fish tank and a particle accelerator had a deeply misunderstood child, it would look like this. There were no bars, no visible doors. The walls shimmered faintly with a low-frequency hum, and Jace's every breath fogged the air with a pinkish mist that smelled vaguely like cinnamon and static. "So, space jail," he muttered, turning a slow circle. "Minimalist, very feng shui if feng shui involved probable organ liquefaction." A spherical drone hovered into view. It had one large optic, 2 spindly appendages, and a slot labeled Emotional Response Dispenser. It chirped and projected a screen that read, "Welcome, JACE Talbot. Queen StoRy has initiated interrogation protocol. Observational immersion. Please refrain from urinating on the walls." Jace blinked. That was specific. Did someone do that? Am I not the first? The drone beeped non-committally and zoomed off. Left to himself, Jace spent the first few hours testing the walls, talking to himself, and trying to teach his reflection shadow puppets. The cube offered no furniture, no food, and no bathroom. Until suddenly it did. At precisely hour 7, a chrome pedestal emerged silently from the floor, bearing a steaming plate of something that looked like linguine crossed with bioluminescent sea slugs. "Well, if I die, at least it'll be with glowing intestines," Jace said, taking a bite. It tasted like burnt lemon and peppered moss. He shrugged. "Honestly, not the worst thing I've eaten this week." Elsewhere on the ship, Queen StoRy stood before a curved holoscreen, watching him through 17 lenses. Her arms were folded, and her expression was unreadable. Behind her, her tactician, High Advisor Keeks, hovered like a shadow. "You're devoting considerable observation time to this human," Keeks said, voice clipped and dry. "Our analysts recommend immediate dissection, or at the very least a comprehensive neural scan." StoRy didn't respond at once. Her gaze remained fixed on the screen, where Jace was now lying on his back, tossing a metal cup into the air and trying to catch it with his foot. "He is chaotic," she said finally. "But not mad. There's a method beneath the disorder that makes him dangerous." "Then why not neutralize him?" She turned, her long ears twitching slightly. "Because sometimes danger reveals more than safety ever could. Let him stretch." Keeks frowned, antennae twitching with suspicion. "Your Radiance, may I remind you he is not a Laren. His mind is weak, undisciplined. He could corrupt even you. Are you suggesting I am susceptible to corruption?" There was a pause, a long one, then, "No, merely cautious." StoRy dismissed him with a flick of her fingers. Day 2 in Chamber 9 brought changes. The cube's environment morphed. Suddenly, gravity was 1-3 Earth-G, the floor sloped. Projections appeared images from Earth, cities, oceans, creatures. A holographic camel blinked at him and disappeared. Jace stared. "Okay. Either I'm hallucinating or this is the weirdest quiz show in history." A new voice buzzed into the chamber, soft and melodious. "State your homeworld's strategic weaknesses." He blinked seriously. "You're opening with that, not even a how's your day going." The voice continued unfazed. "Begin, or biological discomfort will be introduced." "Oh, now I get a threat. Took you long enough." He sighed, sat cross-legged on the glowing floor and said, "Fine. Weakness number 1, everyone thinks they're the main character. Number 2, we made pants with built-in speakers. Number 3, we gave control of the moon to billionaires who think memes are policy." There was a silence. the kind that suggested either confusion or judgment. Jace grinned into the void. Still want to invade. \\\. Later that cycle, the walls displayed fragments of Thelari's personal history. Not intentionally, he assumed. But the patterns began to change, flashes of a younger version of her, leading fleets through exploding nebulae, standing in the ruins of collapsed civilizations. Her face, always calm, bore in those moments something deeper. Not cruelty, but certainty. "You really don't do half measures," Jace whispered at the image. As if in response, the drone returned, blinking with a new message. "Do you find her beautiful?" Jace nearly choked. "Is this a trap? This feels like a trap. Please answer." He rubbed his neck. "I mean, yeah. She's got the whole cosmic empress thing going on, but honestly, it's the ears. The ears are doing like 60% of the work." The drone blinked and zipped away. \\\. In her chamber, Thelari stood very still. The answer shouldn't have mattered, but it echoed. She watched the human sleep later, curled up with a makeshift pillow made of his jacket and one of the drones he'd apparently named Spork. He had disarmed guards with laughter. He had endured psychological pressure with bizarre resilience. He had even complimented her ears, something no one had done in 5 solar cycles without being incinerated. On day 4, Jace built a game out of magnetic scraps. He called it reverse chess, where the goal was apparently to lose all your pieces in the most dramatic fashion. He kept muttering rules to himself like, "Okay, if the queen does a pirouette, the bishop can defect." Thelari sent a probe to ask why he was doing this. He said, "Sanity is like tea. If you don't stir it once in a while, it gets bitter." She didn't understand the metaphor. She made a note to ask about tea later. By day 5, the queen made a decision. She summoned him. The chamber dissolved. Jay stood blinking as a light tube whisked him down into the ship's inner sanctum. When the floor solidified again, he found himself standing in a circular room filled with hovering crystal spheres, each pulsing softly to some alien rhythm. Thelari awaited him at the center. "You've lasted longer than most," she said. "Is that a compliment or a warranty update?" She didn't smile, not quite, but her head tilted in that now familiar way. "Walk with me." They walked through corridors lit by veins of plasma and whispering databanks. He stole glances at her as they moved, her stride fluid, precise, like she belonged to the ship itself. She didn't speak for a long time. And when she did, her voice was quieter. "You confuse me. I get that a lot, usually from bartenders. You defy pattern, irritate protocol, but you interest me." Jace smirked. "You're just saying that because I complimented your ears." At that, she finally laughed, a short, sharp breath that made the lights flicker. "I could vaporize you for that." He looked up at her calm. "Yeah, but then you'd be bored again." She regarded him for a long moment, and for the first time her eyes softened. Not much, just enough for the ship to register a 0.2% drop in ambient intimidation levels. She extended her hand. Jace blinked. "Is this? Are we doing the whole touch the scary queen bit now? Because I feel like there should be more ceremonial chanting." "No, no rituals, just touch." He hesitated, then with deliberate calm placed his hand in hers, warm. Unexpectedly warm. Power shivered through the air, lights dimmed, the ship held its breath. She did not flinch, but she also didn't let go. And in the silent corridors of *Zyrha*, something ancient and sealed cracked open. Neither of them noticed. Yet, the chamber didn't shatter, it didn't explode. There was no catastrophic overload of energy or sudden arrival of flaming celestial beasts. But something happened the moment Jace's hand rested in Thelari's. Something so small and quiet it would have been easy to dismiss, if not for the fact that every single sensor on the ship spiked with impossible readings. The air between them thickened, not with danger but with something older, something almost ceremonial. Thelari's skin, usually cool, silver-veined, unyielding, warmed beneath his fingers, not metaphorically. Literally, she felt it too. Her mouth opened slightly, as if to speak, but no word came out. Instead, she simply stared at their joined hands as if seeing her own fingers for the first time. Her long ears twitched just once, betraying what her face refused to. Then she pulled away, swift but not violent. She began, then stopped. Jace rocked back on his heels. "So, was that weird for you too, or am I just the overly sentimental species in this room?" She didn't answer, but the ship did. Somewhere in the walls, a klaxon whined, muted and confused, like an alarm that wasn't sure what emotion to assign the moment. Lights blinked in erratic patterns. Gravity briefly tilted by 0.3%. From the upper deck, Advisor Keek stumbled into view, pupils stretched wide, breath short. "Your radiance," he gasped. "The sensors, they registered a sympathetic resonance with your biofield. Are you injured?" "Is he asterisk contaminated?" Jace raised a hand. "Nope, still just regular old me, less contaminated, more charmingly contagious." Thalari ignored Keeks. She turned to a crystalline console embedded in the wall and waved her fingers over the controls. Lines of alien script shimmered to life. "He shouldn't be able to do that," she murmured, mostly to herself. "No human should." "Hey," Jace said, stepping cautiously toward her. "You're talking like I hacked your sacred brain software. All I did was touch your hand. I didn't even use lotion first. That's just bad manners." "You disrupted a psychic containment field older than your planet's orbital stability," she snapped, though her voice was less anger and more bewilderment. "It responded as if you were asterisk Alaran asterisk." He blinked. "Well, I do have above-average cheekbones. Maybe that counts." She whirled on him. "Do you asterisk ever stop making jokes?" "Only when I'm unconscious or eating." Keeks stepped forward. "My queen, permission to remand the human to stasis until further analysis is complete." "Denied," she said immediately. Keeks's second eyelids fluttered in shock. "Denied." Thalari didn't repeat herself. She simply stared at Jace, unreadable again. But the warmth was gone, replaced with something colder, quieter. She said, "He comes with me." "To where?" Keeks demanded. Thalari's eyes flicked toward the observation dome above the ship's command bridge. "The gardens." Keeks paled, or at least the Alaran equivalent, a flickering of bioluminescent patterns along his temples. "The sacred biotemporal gardens. He's a bipedal pathogen asterisk." "And yet," she said, almost smiling, "he touched me and the universe didn't end." Jace lifted a finger. "Small correction, we still have no proof it didn't end. This could all be post-hand-holding purgatory." The gardens of Zyrha were not gardens in any traditional sense. There was no soil, no flowers. Instead, vast orbs of suspended microclimates floated in zero-gravity arrays, each orb preserving the flora of extinct worlds. One held mist-shrouded crimson reeds from Sireland 9, another a miniature waterfall spiraling in a Möbius strip of water from Lyra Delta. And at the center of them all, a rotating sphere of bioluminescent vines, called the memory root asterisk, an ancient living data organism rumored to contain the thoughts of past Alaran monarchs. The chamber was dim. The air buzzed faintly with bioelectrical static. As Thalari and Jace entered, the orbs tilted toward them, as if sensing her presence. Jace gazed around, wide-eyed. "So this is what rich alien girls keep instead of poodles." "Each biome holds extinct life," Thalari said. "Species erased by war, entropy, or arrogance." He glanced sideways at her. "And you keep them like this, why?" "To remember what we failed to protect." Jace's tone softened. "That's actually kind of beautiful, grim but beautiful." She walked toward the memory root. It glowed, a deep, pulsing green. "The root reflects the thoughts of any Alaran who touches it, only we are compatible. It does not recognize lesser species." Jace raised an eyebrow. "And I'm guessing you brought me here to test that assumption." "You altered my field resonance. If this root responds to you, it means the universe has lied to us." "Wouldn't be the first time," he muttered, stepping forward. "Do not touch it without intent," she warned. "It is not a toy." "Relax," he said, stretching his fingers. "I'll use my very best I'm not a moron face." He stepped closer. The memory root shimmered. "Intent?" he asked. She nodded. He frowned and closed his eyes, placing a hand gently against the surface. Nothing happened for a heartbeat. Then, light, not just visible, but emotive. Colors he couldn't name shimmered through the sphere. The air pulsed. Jace's hair lifted. His mind stretched. Memories surfaced, his father's voice, the first time he broke orbit, the taste of canned peaches. And then other asterisk memories. A burning throne, a war lost in song, a scream that fractured time. He stumbled back. Thalari caught him. He stared up at her, breathing hard. "Okay, so not a toy, definitely not a toy." The queen turned to the root. Her mouth had parted in something close to shock. "It showed me asterisk something," Jace said. "What?" He hesitated. "A throne burning and your face, younger, laughing." She was silent for a long time. Jace Talbot was starting to think that being an accidental ambassador to a terrifyingly powerful alien queen might require more stretching. His back hurt. His knees hurt. His confidence hurt a little after he tried to bow to a dignitary with tentacles and accidentally complimented their reproductive gland. But that wasn't the important part. The important part was that Queen StoRy was, despite a complete lack of prior evidence, capable of sighing. He heard it as they stepped off the gravlift platform and entered the sprawling atrium deck known as the Quiet Spire. It was filled with towers of transparent crystal, arching data vines, and floating consoles that pulsed in time with the dreadnought's heartcore. Apparently, it was where the Queen came to think. It was also where she now dragged Jace after 3 consecutive days of not locking him in a cube, sedating him, or executing him, which Jace considered excellent progress for their relationship. She didn't explain why she brought him here. Not yet. She simply stood, tall and silent, one hand resting on a thin column of light that hummed in response to her touch. Her long ears twitched slightly, as if picking up on vibrations even the ship's sensors couldn't detect. "So," Jace said, hands in his pockets, "this place is either your personal data temple or the galaxy's classiest glowstick warehouse." She didn't look at him, but he was pretty sure her ear did a sarcastic twitch. "This is the Spire of Resonance," she said, "the place where I commune with the ship." "Oh, cool, do you talk to it? Or is it more of a psychic Spotify situation?" "I listen. The ship speaks in frequencies, vibrations, emotions more than language." Jace frowned. "So it's basically a mood ring, just way, way angrier." "The Zyra does not feel anger," she said. "Okay, sure, but it did jettison a whole hallway full of bureaucrats last night. That feels a bit passive-aggressive." StoRy finally turned to him, her expression unreadable as usual, but her eyes lingered on his face with a flicker of something that might have been curiosity, or indigestion. It was hard to tell with beings who didn't blink. "The ship is confused," she said. "That makes 2 of us. It doesn't know how to categorize you." Jace looked mildly offended. "I'm very categorizable. I've got a blood type, allergies, a tendency to fall for emotionally unavailable women. It's all there." She ignored that. "You disrupted the memory route. You made the ship's emotional grid respond. I've studied hundreds of species. Even among the empathic, none have that effect." He rubbed the back of his neck. "So what you're saying is, I broke your spaceship's feelings." Bent asterisk, not broke, but yes. Jace glanced around at the glowing pillars. "Well, tell it I'm sorry, maybe buy it some flowers, chocolates, an apology poem." "The ship doesn't consume chocolate. I feel deeply sorry for it." They walked in silence for a while. The lights around them changed hue as they passed. Soft lavender, gentle blues, the occasional unprovoked red spike whenever Jace tripped over a floor seam. He swore the ship was laughing at him, quietly. Eventually, they came to a chamber enclosed by curved walls of vibrating crystal. Within hovered a sphere, dull and dark, unlike the vibrant bio-orbs of the memory route. StoRy stopped before it. "This is a memory vault," she said. "Mine." Jace tilted his head. "You have a memory vault, like a diary." She gave him a sidelong glance. "You keep yours in sarcastic anecdotes. I prefer something more precise." "Fair," he muttered. "So what's in it?" She hesitated. That alone gave Jace pause. He'd seen her give execution orders with less doubt. Then she reached out and touched the sphere. It lit with golden veins. Images burst around them. Not as holograms, more like impressions pressed against the back of the mind. A young StoRy, standing alone before a tribunal of stern-faced elders, a war erupting over a shattered moon. The first time she'd bonded with a starbeast, an ancient creature with translucent skin and a mind like a burning choir. And then a child, human-looking, brown eyes, small hands reaching for hers. Jace blinked. "Wait, was that?" She pulled her hand back. The images vanished. "That's not possible," Jace said. "Was that you as a kid with a asterisk human?" "I was trained not to ask questions," she said, voice quieter now. "But I always remembered him. No record of his origin, no species match, just there." Jace looked at her carefully. "And now I show up. The resonance is too close to ignore." He gave a short, uncertain laugh. "You think I'm asterisk him, some time-traveling toddler who came back taller and with better jokes." "I don't think anything yet," she said, "but the universe seems to." Later, Jace wandered the observation deck alone. Well, almost alone. A cleaning drone buzzed after him, occasionally mistaking his shoes for dust. He watched stars slide by in slow motion, each one a distant sun circling gods or garbage or both. Behind him, the door opened. "Thought you were done with me for today," Jace said without turning. I thought I was too, came Thelari's voice. She stood beside him, arms folded, eyes distant. You know, Jace said, when I was a kid, I used to think stars were holes in a giant wall, like the universe was a dark box and someone poked holes in it so the light could sneak in. She was quiet for a while. That's a strange way to view existence. Yeah, but kind of hopeful, right? The idea that light always finds a way. Thelari considered that. Alarans see stars as thresholds, places where time thins. Moments of collapse and potential. See, now that's just cheating, Jace said. Your metaphors are always cooler. She didn't smile, but the quiet between them was easier now, softer. So, he said finally, what happens now? I don't know, she admitted. You are an anomaly. Story of my life. But you're my asterisk anomaly, she added. Jace blinked. Wait, was that a flirt? Did you just flirt with me? I stated a fact. Yeah, but in an asterisk tone. She looked at him. Don't get smug. I can still have you launched into a pulsar. You keep threatening that, but I'm starting to think it's just your version of a compliment. She tilted her head, ears arching slightly. He grinned. I accept. Accept what? Whatever this is, the weirdness, the danger, you. She looked away, back to the stars. Then we're both fools. Sure, Jace said, but at least we're not boring. The ship's lights pulsed softly around them. Somewhere deep inside, the Zyra hummed with new frequencies, tones it had never sung before. And Queen Thelari, feared across the stars, allowed herself, for the first time in lifetimes, to hope. The invitation arrived wrapped in light. Not paper, not data, not the cold clink of a digital ping, but light, woven into a ribbon of glyphs that danced in midair before Jace's face like it had been waiting for just the right moment to impress him. It shimmered with iridescent golds and silvers and the occasional indecisive violet flicker, then unfolded itself with all the pomp of a galaxy-wide summons. JACE Talbot of Earth, mammalian species 3A Delta Prime, you are cordially invited to attend the Royal Convergence Masquerade. Formal attire strongly suggested. Shoes required. No weapons, explosives, or poetry above Class 6 melancholy. Jace stared at it for a full 30 seconds. Masquerade, he muttered aloud, oh sure. I'm just going to blend right in among glowing, sentient crystal spiders, and whatever that guy with the smoke for a face is. The cleaning drone, still loyally following him around like a humming puppy, chirped a dismissive trill and projected a mirror. He squinted at his reflection, tousled hair, a chin that was doing its best, shirt technically intact, confidence situational. Well, he sighed, time to go shopping. The Royal Convergence Masquerade was held in the Zephyrium Spire, a hall that hovered slightly above the dreadnought itself. Untethered, unsupported, and theoretically impossible to fall into unless you believed in metaphysical irony. It rotated slowly around the ship's gravitational field, catching the light of distant quasars like a jewel adrift in the void. Jace stepped through the threshold, dressed in an outfit he hadn't chosen so much as been bullied into by an Alaran stylist who'd insisted. The fabric must whisper asterisk. It shimmered with deep navy tones and patterns that shifted faintly when he moved, like constellations just slightly out of reach. He tugged at the collar. It itches, he whispered to the drone at his side. The drone projected an emoji of supreme disinterest. Inside, the spire glowed with a kind of warm opulence that suggested both wealth and diplomatic danger. Species from across the known arms of the galaxy mingled beneath floating banners of light, each representing a power block, a throne world, or, in one case, a single extremely opinionated jellyfish empire. Ambient music hummed from a quartet of sentient orbs who vibrated in harmony like gossiping wind chimes. Masks, everywhere, some delicate and lace-like, others grotesque and biomechanical. Even those without faces had found a way to mask themselves, emitting scent illusions or thought clouds in stylized emotion. And then she entered. Queen Thelari didn't need an announcement. She didn't descend a grand staircase or conjure a fanfare. She simply was asterisk, and the room knew. A collective breath held. Her gown, if that word applied to the flow of molten silver draped across her, shimmered like the surface of a neutron lake. Her mask was minimalist, obsidian black split by a single line of gold down the center. Her ears, long and regal, arched back like delicate blades. She saw him immediately. He waved. Several dignitaries gasped. Thelari approached him with her usual impossible grace. Your collar is crooked, she said, voice low. It's a fashion statement, Jace replied. Earth custom shows humility or laundry failure, possibly both. I see, she said. And the purpose of the mismatched gloves. Panic dressing. She stared for a beat. Then gently she reached up and fixed his collar. No one spoke. Nearby, a diplomat made of vines physically wilted from the tension. There, she said. Thanks, he said. Should I curtsy? Only if you want to confuse the High Council. He bowed instead. Deeply. It was a little too much, and he wobbled on the way up, nearly colliding with a server droid carrying a tray of glowing drinks. Smooth, she said. I strive for consistency. She gestured for him to follow. The crowd parted as they walked, a low murmur following them like gravity. Illyrian nobles stared. Ambassadors whispered. Somewhere someone dropped a champagne flute and it shattered in dramatic protest. Everyone's looking at us, Jace muttered. Of course, she said. You're the scandal of the season. Well, that's better than being the appetizer of the evening. Don't tempt them. Hours passed. Or maybe just moments stretched by the warping effect of curiosity and alien wine. The masquerade twisted into elegance, into ceremony, into the kind of rhythm only political creatures and trained diplomats knew how to survive. Jace floated through it like a pinball in silk, gently ricocheting off dignitaries, and occasionally being handed drinks by waitstaff who looked deeply unsure about his presence. He found himself cornered by a Pluvian emissary shaped like a pile of gently steaming pillows. You are the human, it wheezed. The asterisk hand-toucher asterisk. I am a handshaker, technically. I wish to know your secrets. What sort of oils do you secrete? Mostly coffee and sarcasm. The Pluvian made a noise like a deflating accordion and shuffled away. Later, a small reptilian noble handed him a card that said only, if she rejects you, call me. He blinked, wow, that's forward. He turned to look for StoRy and found her not 10 feet away, speaking with Keeks. The advisor stood stiffly, maskless expression carved from suspicion. His fingers twitched at his side. He spoke in clipped Illyrian. Jace couldn't follow every word, but he caught the important ones. Contamination, destabilization, weakness. StoRy did not raise her voice, but she looked at Keeks as one might look at a cracked mirror, something familiar now disappointing. Then her eyes found Jace again, and she smiled. Not a big smile, not a grin, just the slightest softening. But it was asterisk, real asterisk. Keeks looked like someone had thrown a sun at him. She walked back to Jace. Everything okay? He asked. For now, she said. Dance with me. Oh good, he said. Because if I didn't humiliate myself at asterisk some asterisk point tonight, I'd be out of character. She led him to the center of the floor, where gravity weakened slightly and dancers moved in soft spirals. Jace did his best imitation of rhythm. StoRy, impossibly elegant, adjusted to his stumbles with terrifying ease. You're not laughing at me, he said. Not out loud asterisk. You're enjoying this. I am, she said. He blinked. Wait, really? She leaned in. You're the first person I've met in 3 solar centuries who says exactly what he thinks. That's because humans haven't evolved the filter gene yet. She spun him, catching his hand again, and he felt it just like before, that warm, shimmering asterisk something passed between their palms. But this time she didn't let go. Don't die, she said softly. That's kind of my long-term plan. There are those who wish otherwise. Keeks has begun maneuvering. I figured, he's got that whole jealous uncle plotting regicide vibe. She looked at him, serious now. You don't belong in this court. I know. But I want you here. Jace swallowed. I'm not sure the universe agrees. Then we changed the universe. The music swelled. They turned. And for a single breathless moment in the spinning heart of the galaxy, a human and a queen floated together, not as ruler and subject, not as anomaly and analyst, but simply as 2 beings, bound by something neither could fully name yet. Not power, not fear, maybe just possibility. The explosion didn't echo, not in the way sound usually traveled. There was no boom, no roar, no window-rattling crescendo. Instead, it rippled through the Zarha like a pulse of silence. A wave of sudden stillness that sucked the air out of every hallway, dimmed the lights across half the ship, and made the neural net flicker in pain. The gravity inverted for 0. 4 seconds, just enough to lift furniture from the floor and drop it back like the ship itself had hiccuped. And then the alarms began, not the sharp klaxon of intruder protocol. No, this was deeper, older. A sound reserved for emergencies the ship hadn't experienced in centuries. The core trembled. Subsystems failed. A firewall collapsed with the electronic equivalent of a groan. In the center of it all, in a control node near the warbridge, High Advisor Keeks stood amidst the chaos, cloaked in shadows and certainty. "The Queen is compromised," he said aloud to no one and everyone. "And the sovereignty cannot afford affection." He tapped a glowing node on the crystalline interface. The ship's inner sanctum, the Royal Command lattice, began to reroute, slowly, precisely, locking StoRy out of the system she had commanded for a lifetime. She would notice within minutes, but by then Keeks thought it will be too late. Jace was upside down when it happened. He was supposed to be. He'd been attempting to fix a small fusion kettle in the Queen's private lounge, an unasked-for gesture of goodwill, boredom, and hubris. He hadn't expected it to backfire into a mini-magnetic reversal, or to flip the entire T-station against the ceiling. "Okay," he muttered, floating just above a heat coil, "so maybe I should leave spaceship repair to the sentient drones." The cleaning bot buzzed angrily nearby, its servos clanking like a disapproving librarian. "I said I was sorry." The lights flickered, then stabilized, faintly red. Jace's feet finally settled back on the floor. He blinked at the new lighting. "That's probably not good." And then the voice came, deep, mechanical, uncertain. "Core breach detected. Sovereign override disabled. Systems integrity compromised." Definitely not good. StoRy stood in the throne chamber, what remained of it. The transparent walls, usually smooth and immaculate, now shimmered with distortions. The crystalline pillars had dimmed. Her neural tether with the ship, an ancient psychic link passed down from monarch to monarch, was severed. It felt like losing a limb she didn't know she still relied on. She turned slowly. Two of her personal guards had collapsed, their cybernetic implants fried by the initial pulse. A third crawled toward her, blood seeping from a glowing wound along his temple. "Your radiance," he gasped. "Keeks," he activated Protocol Fogless. "He's rewriting the ship." StoRy knelt beside him, placed a hand to his chest, and whispered something in the Alaran tongue. The wound glowed once, soothed, not healed, but gentled. She stood. So. Keeks had acted. She had known he would, eventually. Known that to the high echelons of her empire, her fascination with Jace was dangerous. But she'd underestimated Keeks's speed, or his desperation. No matter. The ship might not listen to her anymore, but it would listen to him. Jace was running, not gracefully, not like a hero, more like a man being chased by uncertain fire. The hallways around him warped and groaned. Drones skittered past, some malfunctioning and shrieking, others simply confused. "Okay, not a drill," he said, panting. "Not a weird ceremony, not another galactic escape room. This is actual sabotage asterisk. This is my luck finally calling in the bill." He rounded a corner and nearly crashed into her. StoRy was standing there, untouched by the chaos. Her cloak fluttered, though there was no wind. Her eyes burned with something between fury and calculation. "You're alive," she said. "You sound surprised." "I gave it 60-40 odds." "Charming." She stepped toward him. "Keeks has seized the neural lattice. I need you to come with me." He blinked. "Why me?" "Because you're the only one the ship still responds to." "That's flattering, also terrifying." "I plan to exploit it immediately." "Also flattering, still terrifying." She led him through a service hatch, down a corridor that seemed to move with them, lit only by the emergency glow of backup systems. The walls pulsed, faintly. The Zyrha no longer growled. It no longer hummed with the icy precision of a ship ruled by command protocols and cold calculations. Instead, it breathed, softly, rhythmically, like something alive relearning how to be at peace. Gone were the hostile pulses, the flickering hostility of systems resisting a new future. The dreadnought still looked as it had, obsidian bones stretched over a labyrinth of light, but now it shimmered with a strange calmness, as if it had finally stopped clenching a jaw it didn't know it had. Jace stood on the newly restored observation deck, a place once used only for strategic surveys and ceremonial declarations. Now the vast glass arc hung open to space like a cathedral's vaulted dome, letting stars pour in like light through stained glass. He held a steaming mug of something that tasted vaguely like mint and carbon, watching a comet cut slow trails across a nebula that bloomed like spilled ink. Behind him, the cleaning drone beeped softly and projected a reminder. "Today, diplomatic briefing with Earth delegates. Please wear pants." He sighed. "One time. One asterisk time I forgot." Footsteps, light ones. He didn't turn, but he smiled anyway. He knew them. "Still here," he said. "Where else would I be?" Queen StoRy's voice was softer now, though no less precise. The edge remained, but now it was less blade, more sculpture, sharp but shaped. She came to stand beside him, her silver robes flowing like liquid metal. Her crown, once a towering thing of authority and control, was gone. Replaced with a circlet of alloy and memory root fiber, bonded directly to her neural lattice. She was still a queen, but now one who walked her ship rather than ruled it from above. Earth's delegation arrives in 23 minutes, she said. I know. You're not dressed. I'm mostly dressed. She glanced at him. That shirt is inside out. I call it asymmetrical fashion. It's postmodern. She said nothing, just reached out and fixed his collar, again a little ritual they'd fallen into without realizing it, like anchoring, like proof that the strange gravity between them hadn't faded. Will they accept the alliance? He asked, suddenly serious. Your people value independence, she said, but they also value trade and survival and stories. We have all three. And what do you want? She looked at him, long and thoughtful. Time. With you, with them, with something new. He looked down at his mug. Funny. A year ago I was running food cubes to forgotten outposts, hiding from debt collectors, getting dumped by a girl who said I was emotionally opaque. Were you? Oh, completely, but I've gotten better. Turns out nearly dying in a sentient spaceship can open you up emotionally. She smiled then, not the faint curve she used in court, not the amused twitch she gave when he said something ridiculous, but a real asterisk smile. Wide and warm and so utterly rare that even the ship's lights flickered in acknowledgement. You have changed, she said. So have you, he said. You laugh now. Once quietly. And that's growth. They stood in silence for a moment. Stars moved. Time breathed, then she added, You are also slightly less annoying. I take that as a deeply heartfelt compliment. Elsewhere, the galaxy adjusted. Keeks's final transmission had been intercepted and dismantled before it could reach the High Council. The Council, in its typical blend of paranoia and pragmatism, had issued a statement praising Queen Thelari's strategic acumen in integrating unpredictable human variables into our long-term neural diplomacy model. No one admitted how close they had come to sanctioning her, or how many of them now whispered about humans in reverent, slightly terrified tones. The memory root had stabilized. It now accepted data from Jace as easily as from Thelari, which no one understood and several science teams had politely agreed not to question too deeply. The Queen declared the phenomenon a mycelial convergence of cognitive frequencies. Jace preferred the phrase emotional Wi-Fi. Ambassadors came and went, trade lines opened. Ilaran ships docked in Earth's orbit for the first time, drawing crowds, questions, and more than one overly enthusiastic podcast. Humans, it turned out, were impossible to intimidate for long. Someone challenged a battle drone to a dance-off within the first week. The drone lost. Jace didn't return to Earth, not yet. He was officially dubbed Liaison Prime, which he was told was an honor and not just a fancy title meant to keep him on the Zyrha. He didn't mind. The ship was starting to feel like home. He had his own quarters now. Not a glass prison or a floating cube, but a space shaped to him, half human clutter, half Ilaran elegance. Somewhere in between, a culture was forming. One joke, one ritual, one story at a time. One evening, if it could be called evening aboard a vessel that orbited no sun, Jace found himself back in the gardens. The memory root glowed softly. Thelari sat beside it, her eyes half closed, not meditating, not commanding, just being asterisk. He sat beside her. Still shows me weird stuff, he said. What now? A beach I've never seen. Waves that move backward, a song I somehow know but can't hum. She nodded. It doesn't show futures, but sometimes it shows longing's asterisk. Yours or mine or the ship S. He was quiet for a while, then, Do you ever miss what you were? She considered. I was a blade, now I'm something else, not weaker, just no longer pointed at everything. Do you miss being feared? I still am, but now I think some understand me too. That is harder to maintain, but more meaningful. He nodded. Yeah, I get that. He reached out and took her hand. No tremor, no resonance shock, just warmth. Still not tired of this, he asked. I will let you know in another century. They sat like that, two mismatched figures in a garden of memory, surrounded by the echoes of lost worlds and the quiet murmur of a ship learning how to dream. Later, when the stars had shifted again and a dozen new challenges waited, negotiations, diplomatic scuffles, a small but vocal group of Earth conspiracy theorists convinced Jace was a clone. He found a moment to send a message. To no one in particular. He recorded it with a smile, speaking to the stars. "Hi, my name is Jace Talbot. Once upon a time, I was just a guy with a cargo license and a caffeine habit. Then I met a queen who could kill me with a look and a ship that hated my jokes. Now, I still have the jokes, but I also have a place, a purpose, and someone who sees me not as an accident, but as a possibility.